Thanks for joining us on Khari Free at Last on Bounce23 TV. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, Americans speak more than 350 languages. Critics say America has become a Tower of Babel. With so many languages, no one understands each other. Is it time to make English the national language and require everyone to learn and speak English as a condition for entry into the country? Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com radio host, the Reverend John Coates, Irv Jallow, and Donella Martin Braddix. There are 31 states, Reverend Coates, that have already passed legislation to make English the official language of the state. What's wrong with the federal government getting on board? Why not make English the official language? Every time I go to a store, I've got 25 different languages I've got to read, and I'm tired. Oh, I'm sorry about to hit you. I'm tired of it.
You know, you sound like a true conservative, and that's...
I do?
Yes.
I'm in trouble.
But many of us are tired of it as well, but it's not a new question. It's an old question. Even Benjamin Franklin, during his day, was concerned if the new German immigrants to America, if they would learn English. But up until the 1950s, Americans were still speaking their native tongues. We're in church.
Well, I don't have a problem. It seems to me, Irv Jallow, that we need to make English the official language. I mean, after all of us, it's the one thing that's spoken all over the world. Why not make it the official language?
You know, for me, in my personal opinion, that's ridiculous. Because
how many languages do you know?
Look, I know two.
Whoa. Which one? English and Ebonics?
No,
which one?
It's unfortunate.
How many do you know?
I know two. Because
Name them.
I don't English and American Sign Language.
Both of them are English.
All right, both of them.
Still, but you asked me, and it's considered a language. It is a language.
Do you know Cherokee?
Excuse me.
Do you know Shoshone?
So I know a few words of Wolof, which for me and all of us sitting here is part of our original tongue. So for us to say no other country calls America, nobody else calls themselves the melting pot except for America. So if you're going to call yourself a melting pot, how are you not going to have multiple languages? You have multiple cultures and multiple people.
But that's the point, is that melting means that it
goes
away.
America said means that you have different people from different backgrounds coming together.
That's because there's no fire under your pot. There's no fire under your pot. That's why it's not smelly.
Wait a minute. The whole idea of melting is to make one mix.
No,
right?
Yes.
Wait a minute. Hold on. The whole idea of when you put one ingredients together.
Well,
when you go to make gingerbread, say it, man. When you go to do stuff like that, you want gingerbread as the final product. Am I right?
That's right.
Don't you put cinnamon? Don't you put sugar?
All right.
All the ingredients, and then you get one product.
But guess what? You got a multitude of flavors, honey. Let's keep it together.
That
you have
blend
a multitude
into one.
Of flavors.
That blend into one product.
That you only put you put it in a pot, but you still have distinct flavors going on. And so that's what we cannot afford to lose here in America is our individuality coming to a country that's supposed to be a melting pot.
Donella.
I don't think we're in any danger of ethnic groups losing their cultural inheritance by demanding that English be the official language. In fact, what it has done, what we need to ask ourselves as a country is why hasn't the federal government passed that legislation? Because what it does is creates linguistic ghettos where you have groups of immigrants who remain poor because they don't speak English.
Wait a minute, hold on. Say that again. Say that again.
Linguistic ghettos.
I love it. Irv, you ain't got no comeback on that one.
Yes, I do. Actually, I do. She said linguistic ghettos where, you know, if you said where they remain in poverty.
Absolutely.
And you know what? I don't find that. I find that more so with us. And when we don't speak proper Queen's English.
We've got 350 languages that are spoken in this country.
So
wait a minute,
Americans need to learn some other ones.
350 languages, Reverend Coates. This is worse than the Tower of Babel.
Little Havana is not a linguistic ghetto, okay? All right, Cuban Americans are doing very well within their so-called linguistic ghetto.
350 languages.
And it's okay. So why can't America take the time to learn another language?
350 languages?
You don't have to learn 350, but we're very arrogant to say that, you know, that everybody coming in here has to learn to speak English when we don't put that same onus on ourselves.
Do you know what the real issue?
Do you know how much more money we could make if we had multiple languages?
We're skirting the real issue because the real issue is not linguistics. The real issue is immigration. And when we talk about making English the major language within this country, we're speaking...
Is that a code?
It's a code.
For what?
It's a code for immigration, deportation, and the Latino Hispanic community.
Look, I'm tired of 350 languages. Every time I go to buy a saw, and I want to read instructions, I got 25 different languages I got to learn. That's ridiculous.
There's one major language.
Stay right there. Hold on. I can't speak my language. Why should you be able to speak yours? Up next on Khari, Free at Last. Welcome back to Khari, Free at Last. African Americans were not allowed to speak their own language or maintain their own cultural identity. Why should America bend over backwards to allow other groups to do so when we could not do so? Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host, the Reverend John Coates, Earth Jallow, and Donella Martin. Say that last name.
Braddix.
All right. Well, you know, here's how I'm seeing it. Why should I bend over backwards to do all this stuff for all these folk? I've been here since 1619, help me, Lord, and I cannot speak my language. Wasn't not allowed to do it.
What's preventing you
Wait a minute. I don't see nothing saying Swahili
no, they got,
or Yoruba this.
Oh, they have stuff where you can study. Yes, they do. They have DVDs.
Let me tell you something. John, isn't it time we just had one language? I'm sick of this.
It's time we have one language. It's one America, and we all need to speak English. They speak English all over the world, and the issue is only within certain pockets in the United States, i.e., California, Southern California, and Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. That's where the issue is because there's large immigration issues.
Let's add that in Hartford, Connecticut, it's also an issue where you have 40% of the residents who are Spanish speakers, and half of them don't speak English.
That's because the great migration for Hispanics has taken place.
I went to a buffet the other day. Just the other day. Did I say it right?
Was that hairstyles?
Buffet.
Okay.
That's
anyway, I went to this place to get some food, and I was asking the waitress, and she said, and it was like she didn't understand nothing I was saying. I could have eaten some poison. No, well, not poison. But you understand what I'm saying?
I went to McDonald's and it's the same thing.
That's a problem here.
What is the problem?
I'm not talking about Ebonics.
But what is the problem with us as Americans learning an alternate language such as Spanish, especially when you know you have an influx? That helps us. It helps us. It increases your income.
Why should I bend over backward to cater to somebody who is coming to this country? Wait a minute, coming to this country, and they're going to make me learn their religion, their language? What in the... Wait a minute.
First of all, I didn't say anything about you learning their religion.
And they don't want to learn our language.
That's not true, because most of the immigrants who come here do wind up learning English.
Because
they desire
to do so. In fact, there's an old story.
We do not.
There's an old story that an English teacher had a class in Florida and had Spanish-speaking students, and he says, all my students are falling asleep in class. And someone asks why, because they're working 2 and 3 jobs, but yet it was important for them to be in class to learn English. The Pew Research...
So why should African-Americans... Hold on, Donella. I'm going to ask you, why should African-Americans support having 350 languages? You know, we weren't allowed to do it. Why should we be so generous when other people are not trying to learn Swahili? They're not trying to learn African. Why should we be so generous to them? No, if we got language as a common denominator, make everybody learn English.
Yes, I don't think that we should I lived in a foreign country before, and thank God there were, you know, signs and things in English to help me out. But the bottom line was, if I wanted to become a productive member of that society, I had to learn Japanese.
You had to learn Japanese.
And what happens here is that when you have people who don't learn the language, what happens? They're underemployed, they're relegated to the lower income jobs, and it creates a system of poverty, perpetual poverty, for these people who don't learn English. So it's in everyone's best interest to learn English.
You want poverty? You want to perpetuate poverty?
Listen, what I want to do is I want to correct that.
Tell Donella.
You heard.
But it costs money. money. It costs money to support.
What they do, Donella.
Yes, I'll wait.
What they do, Donella, is that they watch television and they learn English. They might not know it when they step foot on the soil, but I guarantee you, the immigrants, they learn English.
So why
we do not learn another language when we know that our children should be speaking more than just one language?
Why is it that in Florida, 20% of the children tested for the proficiency exam to get a high school diploma failed? 20%, and they failed because they were not English proficient.
Okay.
That needs to stop.
Let me tell you why.
We need to make sure that Americans can speak and understand English.
We can't read. Even forget about the immigrants right now. Let's take it back to the schools where we have 60% of our third graders who can't pass the third grade reading test.
And that brings up the issue of insensitivity from an American standpoint, and making sure that English isn't taught within public schools that have immigrants attending those schools.
That's why they have English as a second language
Because this type of legislation, English only America, would possibly wipe out English training within the public school system.
There's a class that all immigrants take called English as a second language, and it is available in every school. So we can no longer sit here. So we cannot sit here and say that the immigrants coming in do not learn English.
That's the children. That's the children.
And what is happening is you have here like movements in Florida where you have the Latin American League president who said in 2002 that we will not assimilate and we don't need to assimilate, that it is a burden that America is putting on us that is forcing us to speak on a language, and it's discriminatory and racist.
And she brings up an important point, not just as far as language, but as culture is concerned. The Hispanic community has something that the African community does not have.
What is it?
And that is a powerful political advocate called La Raza, a nationalist thinking philosophical organization that puts feet on the ground, real strength political advocates.
So what does that mean?
That means that they have strength.
Are they resisting this language?
No, they're not resisting English, but you best believe that they'll have legislation passed in our government to pay for English courses for adults.
And that is true. And in Los Angeles, in the election for 2002, $15 million was spent in giving ballots and things like that in Spanish as well as English. So this is costing the government millions of dollars each year.
Now I'm gonna come down to earth on one thing. Earth says we should have a multicultural society because we are a multicultural society. So, John, what's wrong with having various languages? I mean, it's irritating, but maybe it's irritating because I don't want to learn it. Maybe I need to double up and learn.
First of all, it's expensive, and it really does not promote unity.
Yes, it does.
You stated in your opening, has America become a Tower of Babel? Now, I don't know.
Use a biblical reference?
I don't think that think these individuals are familiar with the story. But but these people were building a tower to get to heaven, and God cursed them, with different languages so that they could not understand or communicate. We don't want a Tower of Babel. We want to be able to communicate.
So you say 350 languages in this country is creating a Tower of Babel? Because I don't understand half the people sometimes. Do you?
I don't think so.
And that's not good.
I don't understand the people, James Brown, or anybody else. Sorry.
Ridiculous. That is ridiculous. I think that's
why is it ridiculous, sir?
It's ridiculous because we keep limiting ourselves and we want to blame it on other groups and other classes of people, and that's not the truth. The truth is, we as black people living here in America, we should understand.
I tell you what.
You come back to it. Yeah, you come back to it.
Hey, why not make Cherokee the official language? They were here first. Up next, Khari, free at last. Welcome back to Khari, free at last. Cherokee, Cheyenne, Chickasaw, Lakota, Navajo, Shoshone are just a few of the original languages spoken in the United States before being colonized by Europeans. Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host Irv Jallow, Reverend John Coates, and Donella Martin.
Braddix.
All right. Make sure we get that right. You know, Reverend Coates, look. The indigenous people spoke Cherokee, Shoshone. I love to say Shoshone.
Shoshone.
Oh, I love Lakota.
Sounds like a black girl's name.
You know,
Yes, it does.
He just...
Yeah, I know he's crazy. But outside of that. But why English? Why do we have to work with English? Why not just say, okay, we're going to teach everybody Shoshone?
We have to work with English.
Why?
And we see how well the Native Americans learning English a little bit that they did learn. You see how much it helped them. It wiped them out. So, you know, so we wouldn't do well walking around saying how to each other. Because,
wait a minute. They didn't say how. Oh, my God.
Boy.
I don't believe. Oh, my. That's that conservative. I don't believe. Do you know you just uttered a biased. You want to clean that up?
No, we are a country that is culturally biased. We are culturally biased because as African Americans, that's one thing that we did not have the privilege of. You can talk about Yoruba, you can talk about Swahili now, but that's something that was taken away from us that we have no knowledge of. Okay, we can reconnect to it, but right now we have no knowledge of that. They have the benefit of that, and they can keep it.
Language is more than just language. Language controls your spirit. It controls your mind. It controls your behavior. Example is the law. The law is all about language. These things get inside of you and you become possessed by that language. Why would you not want people to have their own language so that they can remain their original self?
People do have their own language, and every time I go to a Chinese restaurant, okay, where they speak English, when they want to have a conversation amongst themselves, they will stand in front of me and my guest and go off into their own language.
Right, and Khari, that's a point that you mentioned about the laws are written in English. All of the things that are important to be a successful member in this society is in English.
No, that's not true. That is not true.
Citizens
I'm
need to know English.
I'm going to counter-argue that.
Absolutely.
Because the language that you speak creates the whole psycho-development of who you are. Wait a minute, hold on. It creates everything, the spiritual basis. Everything is tied up in the words. Am I right, Irv Jallow?
And the majority of these immigrants speak their home language at home.
Hold on, Donella, am I right?
I must agree.
Well, you're a little slow in agreeing. Would you get
she
to
was
the
interrupting. But I must agree.
Don't let her interrupt.
I agree with you, and I think that when you go to a Chinese restaurant, and if you want them to speak English to you, that's fine. But if they choose to speak something else, then it's your job to know what it is that you went into their business.
I have a problem with it. I'm just pointing out that they have a private language amongst themselves.
If you want to learn Mandarin or Cantonese, then you are free to do that.
You certainly are.
There's no reason why we as black people should be speaking the language of our oppressors.
Well, that's why we made a language up, so that we could have communications with each other.
You know what?
We started speaking Pig Latin so that we could understand each other. And our masters did.
And being serious right now, we as captives of this country must be out of our minds to only...
Are you a captive?
Yes.
Are you a captive?
Yes, to only continue to speak the English of my oppressors.
Okay, but I don't think that's the point. The point is, should English be the official language of the United States? That does not prevent anyone from learning a language in addition to English. I think that's a different topic.
So
the point is that everyone in America needs to know English in order to succeed.
That's
you can know 15 other languages if you want to, but you need to know English. Let's keep it real.
That's not true.
Right, the State Department.
Hold on. Why is it not true?
Because we are the only ones that don't unify and come together. When the Africans from Senegal come over here, they set up their shops for their stores.
They speak Sinhalese.
And they speak Wolof. And guess what?
I bet you they speak English when they go to the bank.
But hold up. Hold up, Donella.
Because you keep
talking about poverty, and when I'm looking across the board, they're not in poverty. Chinese people, the Asians, they're not in poverty. And they're not speaking just English. They're speaking their language because they come together and they build with one another in their language.
Because this language issue in the United States is not about the cultures that you just mentioned. It is really code language to talk about the Hispanic population. And what's subsurface behind it is deportation.
But
the issue of deportation.
They're not going to let that happen. They showed you what they were able to do when they took to the streets in thousands of numbers. You saw what happened.
I saw what happened.
Absolutely.
But hold on. Why are 31 states, though, supporting English as one language.
Because
you know why?
And wait a minute, that includes new states where bills have been introduced, like New York and places.
You know.
New York of all places. Why are they all supporting this, Earth, if it's not valid?
Well, it's not valid because they want to control. It is another form of control.
How?
Control of the citizens. You control the language, you control the economic base, you control everything about them citizens, and you keep them in poverty. That's
Through
what
language?
Yes.
How? How do you
What
do
are you
it?
saying?
I'm
if
saying, I'm asking you
everybody is speaking one language, and you lose your history, you lose your culture. Look at us. We have been captives here. We have been stripped of our language, stripped of our culture, stripped of our identity, and now they're trying to do it to everybody and say everybody's American. But when you come here, if you don't know English, then what?
So are you saying, wait, hold on. Are you
You
saying Reverend Coates is joining in on the destruction of the African-American community because he's preaching and pushing one as English as the language? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe I am saying that.
No. You either are or aren't. Is that what you're saying?
You're wrong as two left shoes.
Now I gotta be wrong just because my opinion is different
you are.
from yours?
Yes, it is. Yes, it's either right or it's wrong. It is wrong.
Hold on. Reverend Coates, what were you saying?
I said she's as wrong as two left shoes.
Why?
Well,
Exactly.
because
I don't
the
agree with him.
the examples that she's making doesn't constitute where the target actually
Absolutely.
is. It doesn't target. I think she's just making an argument, but she's not necessarily making the right argument at the right
So
time.
I'm not making the right
reference.
argument. Being that you have been here, you have been stripped of everything. Now you want to tell me that you want to officially speak your oppressor's language?
I already speak my oppressor's language, and so does everybody else.
The journey of African Americans in this country who were brought here by force to the journey of immigrants who
Okay,
willingly
right there.
came
We're
here.
all immigrants.
There's no comparison.
Hold on.
I'm not an immigrant.
Hold on. Is it racist? Up next on Khari, Free at Last. Woo! Welcome back to Khari, Free at Last. Is it racist or culturally biased to choose English as the official language of the nation? Joining me is TalkTainmentRadio.com host, the Reverend John Coates, Earth Jallow, and Donella Martin.
Braddix.
All right. John, look, man, don't you think it's racist that we choose English? We could have chose Spanish, Shahoni, Swahili.
Wolof.
Don't you think that makes everybody think European, think white if we go with English exclusively?
It's the language, the major language that the majority of people in this country speak.
So?
You know, look, Russian Jews come here to the United States. Their community accepts them
Why not,
here,
John?
and they
Why
teach
not
them
just keep
English.
it the way it is? We don't need an official language, do we really? Do we really, John?
Do we have an official religion?
You haven't had one all this
do we
time.
really need an official language, John?
Yes.
What, we do?
Yes.
Do we, Earth Jallow?
We haven't had one in all this time.
That don't answer the question.
No, we don't.
Why not?
We don't, because let people be. Let us be free. It's a control thing. It is a control thing. For me, I see it in the end, it is a control thing.
Should not we require, Donella, people who come into this country before they can come here and enter, shouldn't they be required to speak English at least?
I don't think they should be required to speak English, but I think we need to have practices in place so that they can learn English in a certain amount of time and not make it easy for them to not know it.
Why not have it required,
no,
John?
I don't believe there should be a requirement either. Everyone should have an opportunity to emerge themselves within the society and learn English. And I believe that the government should help sponsor a program in English classes
Let's
for
make it a requirement.
For adults.
The only way this is going to be felt, if what you believe you stand for, then I was going to say something else. Then dagnabbit, make it a requirement. Why not make it a requirement?
I agree. Make it a requirement.
All right. So you just changed your mind.
No, I didn't. I said make English the official language, but not a requirement for entry.
Why not?
But you can't.
Why not?
How are they going to learn English before they come to the United States?
Well, first of all, why would you want somebody come in here that don't speak English? All it does is create hostility, confusion.
They should have. Well, first of all, those people when they come to the United States, they're coming to their communities where other people speak their native tongue as well. They can nurture them
and we have allowed that in this country,
which is okay. Which is okay.
And it's created great division in this country.
It's created wealth for their communities. To their credit, that they live 3 and 4 families together and then branch off into business.
Guess what happened, John? generation after generation, they refuse to speak it.
That is not so. That is not so.
That's
the
not
Pew
true.
Research recently published an article in 2014 that says that second and third generations of Hispanic people learn English.
Of course
and the third generations know English and rarely know their native tongue.
Right.
Now, now you said earlier that we should have it where the government is set up where the people can go and they can learn English. So let's turn it around and have it where we can go if we want to learn our native tongue as well and have them pay for that too.
What would be the purpose? What would be the purpose of learning Yoruba? What we gonna learn Yoruba for? To go back to Nigeria?
Excuse me, I travel. I travel.
So learn it. Go get your own Rosetta Stone. Go get your own Rosetta Stone and learn Yoruba.
So don't be forcing other people to learn English. Then it's still you learn English and it's still you still don't know what you're saying.
Here's the problem. We got 350 different languages to learn. Are you willing?
I'm willing to learn a couple.
All right then. You only got 2 under your belt right now.
So I can learn French and Spanish and be good.
So you got 348.
Because I can be good
and
with
you're
French
60 years
and
old.
You
so
heard.
And we do have elective classes in language within this country. You can choose to learn French. You can choose to learn Spanish. You can choose to learn Latin. You know, those are the general three.
And how's that working out for the students?
Make it the official language of the country?
Yes.
And that's not racist or culturally biased or
I don't believe it's racial or culturally biased. It is with the heritage of the state.
Do not make it. No. Because why?
Because I think it's racist and culturally biased and discriminatory.
And it does what? It keeps people from doing what?
From their culture, from their who they are.
All right.
Give English up.
Thanks to TalkTakeRadio.com host Irv Jallow, Reverend John Coates, and Donella Martin.
Braddix.
And thank you for watching Bounce23 TV.